I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.
Welcome to another CouchCast.
Yep. We got new questions.
We've
got a restocked box. We talk about drawing these out of a bowl, but
it's a box.
There's not a bowl.
Is it your turn or my turn?
It's been so long since we recorded. I don't know.
True. Go for it.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. For dramatic effect. So our friend Yuli from Instagram, I think is how you say her name.
Yes.
Y-U-L-Y. She asked, where can you go to meet eligible Christian men?
That is the $1 million question.
Yep. Well, I don't really know what to tell. Actually, I'm kidding. I'm really kidding.
No. And I think I may be getting questions confused. Mm-hmm. I think she may have said she's tried online and it didn't work. I can't remember.
Okay. She did say she goes to a very small church,
yes.
though. I do remember
that would be my first thing, would be like, at your church. That's always my first option. I guess overall what I would and this is general, we can get into specifics of places in a minute. What I would tell someone, though, is if you were looking for a godly, strong Christian man, go to places where there are godly, strong Christian men. Where are those men already, and go to that place. Mm-hmm. So your church would be your first choice because you believe the same things. For the most part, you see them regularly. You see patterns and character in their life, and then you see them in that spiritual context of like ministry, and are they involved, and is that important to them? And then too, like, you have similar friends, you have similar ways of life, you have a lot of those things in common already. So I think that's a good place to start.
But with that in mind, if you do go to a smaller church and maybe there's no one at your church that you're necessarily interested in, or if you're interested but they don't seem to be interested back, there is nothing wrong with trying to find another, not to say you switch churches, but like if there's a church that has a really, or a thriving singles ministry, I think it's okay to go check that out and to go take part in that.
I totally agree on that. I would want to say, though, because I've had, over my years of dating and being single and whatever, I've had people say regularly, oh, you should go to this church or go check out the guys at this church. And I've struggled with this back and forth because on the one hand, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But on the other hand, I'm like, I'm at this church where I'm at. This is where God wants me. I'm not going to go church shopping just looking for a man. That's something that's always kind of like sat funny with me. Like I wasn't okay with that. But what you just said, if they have a thriving singles ministry where the known and stated purpose is for single people to come meet each other, I think that's different. That I'm okay with. And I would say, yes, if there's a church that's bigger than yours like this, if you go to a really small church, or there just aren't any single people there, it's okay to find somewhere that's bigger and has more options, for lack of a better term. That's the only thing I can think to say. I think that's okay.
Yeah, because I think it all depends on your mentality. If you're going into it viewing it like a meat market, that's not your best.
No. And that's not your best option at your own church.
No.
Much less going somewhere else.
No. Yeah, you want to go in with a grounded outlook and mentality if you're going to go into a different church. And like Bethany said, not just, let me go to 4 singles ministries in 1 week and just see.
And I'm going to
who I meet,
all my options.
Yeah, get my number out of it. No, but just if you get into one, you're making friends. Because that's another thing too, that whether or not you meet a guy at one of those singles ministries, you may make friends who then you meet guys through these new friends. So it's not just to say that, oh, I've got to find a guy at this place.
You're just broadening your circles.
Yeah.
Widening your horizons. I think I got my metaphors.
Broadening your horizon and widening your circles.
Yep. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. I think that's a great option.
Yeah. And I would say this, and I think in this specific question, she mentioned there's like 2 or 3 single men at her church and they're just not options. Mm-hmm. So that's different from what I'm about to say, which is if you're at a church where there are plenty of single guys, before you're going outside of your church, really evaluate why none of them are quote unquote acceptable if they're not. Like, are you being too picky? Are you just thinking, I wonder what else is out there? Now, if you've been there and there's no interest or nothing's ever been done, like, that's one thing. But if you're just writing them off, be careful with that, I think, is all. That's just a caution.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Another thing I think you can do is, especially if faith is really the priority here, because I think we can all agree if you really want to just meet single guys, you can go to bars and you can go to all, these random places where single people hang out. But if faith is important, like she's saying, I think volunteering or
at a ministry,
or some sort of nonprofit that maybe has some like Christian influence, I think is a great way for you to meet people and to kind of bond over that shared experience and that shared interest that, okay, hey, I'm really passionate about helping kids after school or coaching a sports team or whatever that looks like. You're able to have that commonality already, which makes conversation a lot easier at the very beginning. And then, you have some similar interests too that you can kind of expand from there.
Yeah. I think that's good. And then there's always kind of in that vein, but not as much. We've talked about this before. Go take a class. If there's something you're interested in, kind of that same thing of like finding people who have the same interests as you, go take a class for something. Go learn how to do a skill. Go whatever. And see who you meet in those. Now, you wouldn't necessarily know right off the bat, oh, that person's a Christian. But you never know who you might meet. So I think that's an option.
Oh, totally.
Just in general, too.
I think going back to what I was saying a minute ago, all of these avenues are not only places you can meet guys, but you can meet friends who then you may be able to meet guys through.
Yeah.
Not that should be your goal, but like, I'm going to go make friends to see how many hot guys they know. Like, that's not what I'm saying. No. But I think... how many times do you hear like, oh, we had a mutual friend, or they introduced me to whoever, or I knew this person that he knew, or he went to college with, fill in the blank. But I think that kind of connection happens so often. So even if you're not the type to kind of put yourself out there with relationships necessarily, and that kind of intimidates you, maybe take a few months, be like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on kind of broadening my friend group and meeting more people and developing friendships. And then maybe once I'm more comfortable with that, then I can go the next step.
And you can do that within your own church, too. It doesn't always have to be somewhere else, but get to know people in your own church. Again, not with this ulterior motive of maybe they'll introduce me to their son's friends, brothers. I don't know what. But that shouldn't be your motivation going in, but I think it's an added perk sometimes of it's okay to let people know that you want to get married and that you want, like, you're open to being set up and you're open to that. It's okay to tell people that. Let them know, and then you never know who they might introduce to you. Yeah, so tell people at your church. Let people know that, hey, I want to get married. Help me. Keep your eyes open. I've got several people like that at my church that I'm like, hey, if you know of anyone, I'm not opposed to being set up. I guess that's because some people, it's kind of like this funny thing of like, oh, I don't know if they want to be set up, or they're opposed to blind dates or whatever. I'm not.
Yeah.
And so I'm okay with letting people know that as well.
Yeah. And it's okay, I think, too, to only let certain people know that.
Okay. I think it should be required.
Yeah. I am more on the side of I can count on one hand the people that I would trust to set me up with somebody.
Sure.
But if you're comfortable with whoever, like, good for you. Go for it. But I think it's fine if you're like, don't trust my great Aunt Sally to, to introduce me to whoever she meets at the grocery store. But I do trust my best friend or my mentor at my church or whoever to, think, oh, I think this guy would be good with her.
Yes. I have a wide group of people who know I want to get married. The group of people that I've said, you can set me up, is much smaller. Much smaller.
Yeah.
So,
for sure. So, yeah, I think maybe start with that, and then just things, and just kind of go from there.
And like we've said, I hate it when people ask a question, and then you're like, oh, I'm not going to answer your question. I'm just going to give you a principle instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that drives me crazy.
We've given some ideas, but I'm still going to say, just live your life. Be you. Do the things you like to do. Be interested in the things you like to be interested in. Talk about the things you like to talk about. Be you. Be who God created you to be. Live your life, and then see who's going in the same direction. Like, who's running in the same direction, whether it's at your church or somewhere else. When you look over and you're like, wow, this person's keeping pace with me, and we're going in the same direction. Those are the people that God's saying, hey, notice this person. So just keep that as your overall mentality, and then do what you like to do.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of you do what you can do, and then you let God do what only He can do.
Yep.
And so, like, if you're putting yourself in the position to meet people, and if you're kind of going outside your comfort zone a little bit, and you're widening your circles, or you're taking steps that are in your power to do, then you let God orchestrate what only He can orchestrate, because there's only so much you can do in your power. And sure, you could manipulate circumstances, but do you
You
really
don't
want to
wanna
do
do
that?
that.
You
No.
really, and at the end of the day, God is still sovereign and he is still in control. And I mean, my dad was one of 2 single guys at my parents' church when my mom walked in and she ended up marrying him.
Wow.
So the odds don't always have to be necessarily in your favor.
That is very true.
But I think if you're taking steps to do what you can do, then at that point, you just be open-handed and be like, all right, God, you take care of the rest. That would
That's
be
good.
my encouragement.
Perfect.
Great question.
That was a good question.
Thanks
I like
so
that
much
one.
for sending that in. And we'll be back next week with another full-length episode.
on Wednesday. But until then, I'm Bethany.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Looking for the Middle.